when they aren't feeding each other bamboozle burgers in the ring. UFC guys are usually too busy perfecting the art of weight cutting in a way that anorexics can only hope to achieve.
171, the official weight for Jack Della.
The results vary, of course. Some of them arrive at weigh-ins looking like Adonis with hands, while others arrive looking like wilted cabbages about to be squashed. I'm your host, Mike Johnston, and today we're going to be looking at 7 UFC fighters who looked awful at weigh-ins. Stay tuned, we have a surprise addition whose looks at the weigh-in would really shock you. Number 7. Jack Della Maddalena. Earlier this year, folks were hyped to see Jack Della Maddalena go for his 4th straight win in the UFC. This welterweight powerhouse had an incredible 13-fight win streak in professional MMA.
Jack Della Maddalena.
So his match against Randy Brown in his own Aussie backyard seemed like a walk in the park. But nature is a cruel witch, and nothing worth winning is worth being easy to win. At the weigh-ins, fans saw a different side of Dear Jack than they expected. Just a few days prior, Jack seemed like the picture of health and vitality. But then, boom! He had to shed some serious pounds to hit that 170 mark on the scale.
171, the official weight for Jack Della.
When it was his turn to step up, he looked all buffed up and fit. But if you're observant enough, you could tell he was fighting against some major discomfort. It was as if he was trying to hold himself together, preventing himself from vibrating right out of his own skin. Craziness or dedication? One might not be able to tell, but after the weigh-ins, they interviewed the guy.
That's it, yeah. I practiced grappling, and as soon as he gave me the neck, it was done. I'm not letting go of that.
And boy, it was like watching a human-sized earthquake. Jack's voice shook like he was at a funeral, and he also couldn't stop twitching in his seat. He ran his hands through his hair like it was no biggie, but if you've been with the homies long enough, you know he was putting up the tough guy facade. Nice try, buddy. But we all saw through it. Clips of this ordeal went viral, and people started questioning the whole practice of weight cutting, and those darn post-weigh-in interviews. Although at the end of the video, his teeth were chattering like a chipmunk on ice, he still went on to wipe the floor with Randy Brown.
The chin, look at that, down he goes, face plants to the octagon.
Putting him in submission just 2 minutes into the first round. Talk about a triumphant comeback. Number 6. Cynthia Calvillo, UFC Argentina. UFC fighter weigh-ins are brutal for the guys, but hold on to your hats because the ladies have their own share of weight loss worries. These women are tough as nails, but some of them barely survive the whole shebang. Enter Cynthia Calvillo.
Ahora su rival, Cynthia Calvillo.
Former UFC superstar who was once the princess that was promised, rocking an impressive win streak. But hey, even the best have their struggles, right?
47 for your winner out of San Jose, California, Cynthia.
Cynthia always had a bit of a tiff with weight cutting, and in her 2018 showdown with Poliana Batalho, she stumbled onto the stage like a tipsy penguin, sporting a painful grimace that looked scary to everyone watching. She could barely keep her peepers open and almost left an imprint of her skull on the floor during the weigh-in. You just had to wonder what dreadful thing she went through to get that desired weight. Naturally, she missed the weight by a measly 2 pounds and had to kiss goodbye to 20% of her purse. But here's the kicker. Despite all the nonsense, she went on to school Poliana Batalho, submitting her in the first round with a rear naked choke. This is just one case of women going extreme though. Julia Stoliarenko collapsed not once but twice on the damn scale on the same day. Needless to say, her fight got cancelled faster than you can say weigh-in woes. Number 5, Jose Aldo and Max Holloway. UFC 218. The UFC 218 event had Max Holloway, the featherweight champ, going up against the former champion, Jose Aldo. These guys were ready to rumble, but man, they really pushed themselves to the extreme in preparation. Virtually everyone made the weigh-ins for their division except, yep, you guessed it, Max and Jose. These two couldn't just saunter up to the scale like the rest of them. Looking like broken fighters, they had to strip down to their birthday suits and use towels to keep things PG rated, while trying to fit on the scale. Talk about drama. First up was Jose Aldo. He managed to drag himself to the scale, looking like he just ran a marathon. The poor guy was grasping for air and appeared totally spent. 1 pound over the limit, he finally gave up the act, hunched over the scale, and desperately tried to catch his breath.
146 for Jose Aldo. That is a problem. That is a problem. He needs to weigh 145.
Luck was on his side, though. He mustered the strength to step back on the scale and, lo and behold, he hit the magic number, 145 pounds. Phew.
And he hits his mark. That's 145 for Jose Aldo, so a bit of drama there.
As for Max Holloway, he made weight on his first attempt, but boy, did he look uncomfortable. You can see it in his eyes, lost in space, probably questioning his life choices right there and choosing silently to join the WWE instead. The sacrifices these fighters make, I tell ya. In the end, it was Max Holloway who came out on top, defending his title like a boss. He knocked Jose out in round 3, sealing the deal and keeping his title for just a moment longer. Number 4, Johnny Hendricks, UFC 200.
Champion of the world, Johnny Big Rig Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks, oh boy, he had quite a ride in his prime. The dude managed to snatch that welterweight division championship once, but then things went downhill faster than a bobsled with wheels. The roller coaster from hell started with his controversial fight with George St. Pierre.
Beautiful takedown, ducked right under that big punch, anticipating.
Some say it was a robbery, others say it was just plain old bad luck. Either way, one could guess that messed with his head. From that point on, it was like he couldn't find his groove anymore. UFC 200 came, and Johnny stepped up to the scale, but he looked like he was about to step into a pit of fiery lava. I mean, the dude was trembling like a leaf and probably praying for a miracle. Spoiler alert, he missed weight. He stripped to the teeth, but it didn't matter. He just couldn't hit that mark. He went up to the middleweight division, thinking maybe a change of scenery would do him good, but not really. He still couldn't make weight consistently and was one of the fattest fighters out there. It's like his body had a mind of its own, and it was saying, nah, I don't feel like playing by the rules today. And the losses kept piling up. Kelvin Gastelum took him down, decision style, in round 3, and then there was Neil Magny, who showed him no mercy in UFC 207. Oh, and guess what? Johnny couldn't make weight again. Dude just couldn't catch a break. Eventually, all these mishaps led to his surprising retirement in 2017. He must have thought he was one of the fighters who would never be the same again. Number 3. Yoel Romero, UFC 225. Yoel Romero had so much potential. This dude came into the UFC as a former Olympic wrestler, ready to dominate, but little did he know, MMA battles are a whole different ballgame. He struggled with some serious challenges, especially when it came to cutting weight. It was like a never-ending roller coaster ride for him. And that's what set him apart from other middleweight legends, if you ask me.
It's gonna come. You know it's gonna come, you just don't know when.
Romero with a knockdown.
Yoel once went up against Luke Rockhold and knocked him out in the 3rd round like a boss. But guess what? The dude was 2.7 pounds over the weight limit, and because of that, couldn't claim the interim middleweight championship because of this.
Stepping over, full mount, locked it, half guard.
It gets even crazier. In his next shot at the title against Robert Whittaker, Yoel struggles just to get on the damn scale at the weigh-in. It's like he was made of poorly arranged Legos. After trying twice with no luck, he had to face the punishment and seal his fate as a non-challenger. But that's not even the most devastating visual from that ordeal. Yoel walked out with his manager, clinging to him for dear life, visibly in pain. The fight went on, but not as a title fight. After 2 more losses, Yoel said goodbye to the UFC and found his groove in the light heavyweight division over at Bellator MMA. But hey, at least he's in his natural weight class now, right? Good on him. Number 2, Mizuto Hirota. Fight Night Japan. This is where the goosebumps come in, folks, because we're diving into one of the most spine-chilling weight-cutting stories in UFC history. And believe me, the UFC has had its fair share of terrifying tales in this department. We're talking about Mizuto, who was set to take on Rani Yaya right in his own backyard in Japan. But little did Mizuto know that he was about to join the League of Weight-Cutting UFC Fighters, a weight-cutting nightmare of epic proportions. Mizuto, with his lightweight frame, attempted to squeeze into the featherweight division. Now, we all know that looking a bit gaunt and stiff is par for the course when it comes to weight cutting, but what unfolded here was a whole new level of scary. I'm talking about swaying and teetering on the edge of passing out. Yikes. Mizuto could probably squeeze into the welterweight division without breaking a sweat, but on this fateful day, he decided to test his limits and make the featherweight cut. Spoiler alert, it didn't go so well. With one hand on his hips, Hirota stepped onto the scale looking like he had just emerged from a battlefield. And the verdict? He was a whopping 4 pounds overweight. As if things couldn't get any worse, Hirota's balance decided to take a vacation. The poor guy swayed like a palm tree in a hurricane, ready to topple over, but luckily, The gentleman beside him steadied him, and it took a team member's intervention to escort him off the stage. When he tried to bow to the crowd, he was a little slow in getting back on his feet. Talk about a total weight-cutting disaster. The fight was scrapped, but it left us with a chilling glimpse into the unimaginable hardships of how MMA fighters cut weight. It's a harsh reality for those who, despite giving it their all, still can't hit that magic number on the scale. Number 1. Conor McGregor, UFC Fight Night 59. This weigh-in appearance takes the cake for being the absolute scariest. But hold on, not because we were worried about Conor. Oh no. We were genuinely concerned for poor Dennis Seaver's well-being. I mean, seriously, after seeing Conor, the dude must have been thinking, what in the world did I get myself into? Picture this. It's weigh-in day, and Conor steps onto the scale looking like a shredded tattooed nightmare. And although he was a mere shadow of his former self, he still looked as lively as a kangaroo tap dancing across broken glass. It was downright bone-chilling, and poor Dennis must have been shaking in his boots. Someone described Conor's transformation as Skeletor reborn in flesh and muscles, calling out for blood. It's the most accurate depiction of that transformation we've seen so far. If I were Dennis, I would have hightailed it out of there. No questions asked. Dennis is a far braver man than me though, so he actually showed up for the fight, losing with honor and dignity by a cold knockout in the second round. At least he got paid for it, being one of the fighters who lost against the monster that is McGregor.
And the way he lands that punch, beautifully done entire fight.
Conor decided to stick with that terrifying transformation throughout his featherweight career. Fans who had followed him before initially buzzed about it, but quieted down after. Nowadays, Conor coaches due to a leg injury, and if you compare his current looks to his previous self, it just reinforces how mind-boggling that transformation was. A shocker and a real jaw-dropper.
He really is getting eaten alive.
This brings us to the end of our list of 7 UFC fighters who looked awful at weigh-ins. We'd add honorable mentions, but we want you to do so in the comment section. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more like it. Don't forget to check out our video on 5 UFC fighters who took bodybuilders to school. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.